Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Second Act Actors. I'm your host, Dr. Janet McMorty, and I'm still a medical doctor simultaneously trying to pursue a career in acting. My guest this week is Jordan Heron. Jordan and I are part of the same agency family, Ritter family, hashtag Ritter Talent Agency. Jordan is, what I'm now realizing, my second of two in a row second act actors who were project managers turned actors. Angie being another project manager turned actor. And so we touch on a lot of really interesting transferable skills between the job of project manager and now the career in acting. Jordan has an incredible story, and you'll hear it in the first part of this episode. He traveled to the Ukraine to do a lot of filmmaking there, all about the war in the Ukraine and filming the people involved in it there. And oh my gosh, like the stories he has are just heartbreaking, necessary, just absolutely insane stories of survival and courage from the beautiful, beautiful, amazing country that is the Ukraine. So thank you, Jordan, for what you're doing to help keep these stories alive. We also touch on, so he has got some hilarious stories about who he is as an actor. And if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see what he looks like, right? He's got long curly hair. He could be dubbed a character actor. So we talk about what it's like to be someone like that in the industry, right? Like he could technically play a doctor, but no, he doesn't look like a doctor in the industry. I don't look like a doctor in the industry either, and I am a doctor in the world. So we have a great conversation about looks, typecasting, and all that fun stuff that goes on in this crazy business that we're in. Please enjoy the wonderful, wonderful man that is Jordan Heron.
Yes, I was.
Oh my gosh! When did you get back?
End of April. I went there end of March. I think I arrived on day 34 of the war. I was there for 4 weeks. Well, I was away for 4 weeks. I was in Ukraine for about 3.5. I flew into Warsaw, and then I took a bus to Przemysl, Poland, which is near the border, and then a friend who I'd never met before, a friend of a friend, she drove across the border, picked me up, and took me across to Lviv. I was there for about 3.5 weeks with about 4 days I spent in Kyiv towards the end of it, once Kyiv had been deoccupied, the northwest of Kyiv. The short story of my life is that I've never been affected by war before. I'm old, but I'm not old enough for the First and Second World War, And the wars in the Middle East are, America fighting over oil fields. The Ukraine trip was more of a mental hardship than anything, and not because of, any fighting that I saw, because I was nowhere near the front lines. I went to Ukraine. I have friends in Ukraine, and I wake up on 24th of February and my friends are running for their lives, or they're refugees, or they're fighting. And I was really offended that somebody would just invade their country because they felt like it. And I wanted to do something. My intent was to go and drive people around, go to Poland to get supplies and bring them into Ukraine, or do manual labor, and then hopefully take some film footage on the side, and maybe I could do something with that when I got home. When I got there were so many refugees from Kyiv and Kharkiv and Heron and Zaporizhia in Lviv that they literally didn't need my help, because I arrived at day 34 of the war, so they've had a month to practice. So they've got a smoothly oiled machine running there. The refugees who don't have jobs are pitching in to help with the war effort. The men of fighting age can't leave the country, but the women were driving across to Poland and getting supplies and bringing them back. by that point, the big refugee crush had finished. I also found out that you can't rent a car in Poland and drive it to Ukraine. And I assumed that was the war, but no, it's because it's not part of the European Union. Like, you've never been able to rent a car in Poland and drive to Ukraine, you know? So here's me, North American idiot trying to figure out how to do things in Europe. So when I got there, I said, so what do you need me to do? And they said, well, you're a filmmaker, you say. Our biggest fear is that the world's going to forget and we're going to be left fighting Russia all by ourselves. So if you're a filmmaker, make films. So they gave me an office and a big desktop computer. I downloaded my Adobe software, and I would go out in the morning, or I would go to the office in the morning. I would edit films. I'd put it up on Facebook, and then I'd go out in the afternoon and take more film. And that was kind of my routine while I was there, learning about people, learning about the country, learning about the fact that this war is not new for them. They've been fighting Russia specifically since 2014, and they've been fighting, for their independence for over 300 years. It was fascinating. It was fascinating how, where I was in Lviv, there was no evidence of war except for a lot of soldiers on the street, and yet everything was about the war. I went to the library where they were making camouflage nets. I went to somebody's garage where they were dehydrating vegetables to make packaged soups, instant soups to send to the front line. I went to the war memorials and saw the heroes of Ukraine, which dated from 2014. There were flags everywhere, and they were not new flags. These people are fiercely independent, fiercely proud of their democracy, and I can't imagine how stupid Putin is that he thought he could walk into there and just take over, because he's not. And this is an unpopular opinion, but when they're accusing Russians of killing civilians, trust me, those civilians are dangerous. None of them want Russia there. You put a gun in an 80-year-old farmer's hand, he's going to try and kill Russians. So, I don't blame Russia for trashing the place, because they're not going to give up. I mean, I do blame Russia for doing it because it's wrong, but Russia is right to fear every Ukrainian out there, because they are independent, fiercely independent, and they are not going to give up.
Yeah, there's kind of an interesting, and I know I'm guilty of this mindset of anytime you plant the word refugee on someone,
yeah,
I think you automatically think of like weak, powerlessness, I don't know. I think of like, oh, poor them. How can we help them? But we forget exactly, like, what would it be if we were in that situation? If America invaded Canada or something like that. You're damn right. We as humans would fight back.
Yeah.
But there's something about the labeling, or I don't know what it is, about like, oh, like, what do you mean? Wow, they're fighting back?
Yeah.
I thought they were like these poor, hungry, starving refugees. It's like,
no,
never.
Most of the refugees, there are a lot of internally displaced refugees. So people that used to live in Kyiv are now living in Lviv and now they're moving back slowly. But most of the people that I saw leaving the country were women with children. It's like, let's get the kids out, but most of the women I knew of adult age, or how do I say this? Women whose children were adults, or women who didn't have that sort of maternal responsibility, they weren't leaving the country. And I met friends of mine with a young child that they'd moved from Kyiv to Lviv. They weren't leaving the country; they just moved somewhere safer with their kid. But they had no plans to leave. I am impressed with the people there. I've never met anyone more brave or more stolid. They're not going anywhere. And not that I want to advertise that people should spend their time watching TV, but there's on Netflix, there's a documentary called Winter on Fire, I think it is, which talks about their fight for independence against their own president. That Ukraine was on a path to join the European Union, and then at the last minute, the president goes, "You know what? We're going to stick with Russia," and there was an uprising and they got rid of the president. I mean, it took 90 days, and civilians died because they were unarmed, but they fought. They are fiercely democratic, have been for years, decades, and yeah, they're not giving up. Their concern, as I said earlier, is that the world's going to forget them and that they're going to lose because they don't have, the support that they need to win. And they very much deserve our support, and they very much deserve to win this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, where can we find what you've been doing, your film work?
I haven't done anything with the footage since I got back, but on Facebook, there's a channel called, I think, Ukraine, This is a War Zone, all one word. And that has some of the small clips that I was doing while I was there. I was posting, still pictures as well as some videos once I got those up and running. I was trying, it's not like it's art, but I was trying to convey the fact that war zones don't necessarily look like what you think. In Lviv, you got children playing in the park, and they're at war. 50 feet from these children who are playing in the park, there's a bunker that you can go hide in if you need to. People are out on the street. There's tourists. They're having dinner, and there's soldiers every 100 yards. The first full day I was in Lviv, I'm sitting at a cafe with friends of mine having a sandwich, and the air raid siren goes off. No one even misses a bite. It's like, well, there's nowhere for us to hide here, so we're just going to keep eating our food and drinking our coffee and, whatever. And the air raid stops, and nothing happened. And you don't know if it was bad intelligence, or if there was a successful airstrike somewhere else, or if there was an airstrike and the Ukrainians shot it down. You never find that out. You just know that the air raid sirens were going to start, and then an hour later, the air raid sirens go off and go, it's okay, we're done now. Well, I don't know what happened, but something happened. And then, occasionally the air raid sirens go off and bombs fall. The closest that happened to me was on the last Monday I was there in Lviv. There were bombs that fell 2.5 kilometers from where I was staying. Not close enough to hurt me, but too close for comfort.
Yeah. Well, and I think about where we live in Canada, and probably the States as well too, maybe less so because of their war in Iraq, but there's not a lot of people, sadly, left in Canada who've experienced true war, right? Because they're dying off, sadly, and they're getting older. And so for those of us who have not experienced that sensation, it's hard to feel it and empathize with it and keep that empathy strong for a long period of time. Like you were saying, the difficulty is keeping people aware so that we don't forget about Ukraine, when all we have to relate is, I don't know, film and television, like stories about war, like you were saying. So it's, I don't really know what I'm saying, but I'm like, it's hard to relate, which makes me feel, because we've experienced the life of plenty. We
don't know. We don't know.
It sucks.
If
we don't know.
Unless you are a soldier serving in an active, like I've never been in the military, but unless you're a soldier serving in an active war zone, you don't know what this is. And you can sit back and be an armchair soldier and go, well, I wouldn't let them get away with that, and I would be in there fighting. And no, you wouldn't. You would run. You would piss yourself and you would run. It is horrible. And I've never even been there, and I know it's horrible. And I talked to people, and I saw. Everybody saw the pictures of Bucha and Irpin on TV after the Russians were pushed back. The most moving story I saw in the news was this old guy who was, grieving over his son's death. I think the guy was in his 60s. Why did I just say old? I'm in my 60s. And his son in his 40s had been shot by the Russians, and he was grief stricken. But the last thing he said to the interviewer was, the most important thing that was, my son did not give up his country. Like that was the most important thing to this guy, is that his son didn't tell the Russians anything, didn't do anything, was not a traitor. He died, you know, a Ukrainian, a patriotic Ukrainian. That was the most important thing to this guy.
Oh my God. Wow. That's what incredible work, I think, that you are doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people,
Wow.
you know, people, I mean, I'm in my small town of Dunville here. I'm a tiny little legend. And I don't think I did that much. You know, yes, I did more than many people. I went to a war zone, but I went, you know, I had a friend to meet me there, someone who spoke the language. You know, he gave me Ukrainian cash when I got there because you can't get it at the bank. You know, I had a wad of Polish money, you know, that I got from the bank, but you can't buy Ukrainian hryvnia at you know, the Royal Bank down the street. You know, they don't want to deal with that. But you know, people helped me. People set me up. I was never in a lot of danger. And I felt guilty that I had a home to go to. I mean, I was there for 4 weeks. And when I left, all I felt was guilt. It's like, I'm going home. These people are stuck here. They're in a war zone until it's over. And I'm not. And you know, I was at the largest humanitarian aid center for the whole country in Lviv. I was talking to the military guy running it. And they didn't need my help. You know, they got pallets and pallets of stuff from Ireland and United Arab Emirates and Canada and the United States. And then I went to this other place that is usually a no waste shop, a green shop. They're trying to promote, you know, a green lifestyle because, you know, you think we have problems with garbage in Canada where we have, you know, a gazillion acres of land to throw our garbage in. You know, Europe's crowded. You know, waste is a big problem there. But her little shop was now a tiny little humanitarian aid station. And she got in, you know, she took in stuff from local people that wanted to donate. And then she would try and find people at the other end of the country who needed it. And then she'd try and find people to drive it out there for them. And so, you know, I still donate a small amount of money to her personally every month, you know, to help her with her tiny charity because my donation makes a difference there. Whereas, you know, my donation doesn't matter to the country of Ukraine. It matters to individual Ukrainians.
And I think that's so key, right? Like I think about anytime we kind of, I think the word was voluntourism. I remember hearing, you know, about like people going to places to volunteer, but actually like leaving there having been a burden on the country, right?
Right.
But if you think about like what legacy are you leaving, and what have you contributed in a way like to this place? And I think like the stories that you're even just telling now about these people who are having a tough time getting their story out, like these are the people we want to hear about, right? I love what you said. Like a lot of us are kind of struggling with where do we send aid, knowing that it's a good place, and these are the people, right? I love what you said about the government in Ukraine doesn't need this. The small business owners and the humans who are there need it.
And I, in some way, I was guilty of that voluntourism thing.
Of course.
But on the other hand, their economy needs help, right? Because they're at war. So the fact that I was spending money on a hotel room and that I was buying groceries, you know, that helps their economy a tiny little bit. The fact that I am, you know, trying to tell their story, yes, and learning about their history. I wanted to be like more of a help than I could be, and I'm struggling now with the footage that I have because I don't have anything yet that to me lends itself to a documentary. What I may end up doing, is closer to, I don't want to say this the wrong way. I might make a film about me. You know, this is me, a Canadian who went to the war zone of Ukraine, and this is what I saw, and this is what I learned, and this is what you should learn from this. Because I can't tell Ukraine's story, but I can tell my story. And I was amazed at the things I saw and the things I learned. You know, it was stunning. I very much want to go back there. I mean, I would love to go back there now, but you know, I don't have the wherewithal for that right now. It was because of COVID that I could go. I don't take vacations to stay home like I should and work on the farm. I take vacations to go places. So during COVID, I didn't go anywhere. So this year I had like an extra 4 weeks of vacation built up that I had to use by the end of the year. So I looked at, you know, the Ukrainian war and said, you know, I can easily take 4 weeks and go there and not even hurt my vacation plans for the year. So it was COVID, you know, was the reason I got to go. And I would love to go back again. My wife is a veterinarian, and she is hoping to go and do some work with animals once her busy season here dies down, because she's self-employed. If she goes now, she has no income for the year. But she wants to go when her business, you know, veterinary business is cyclic, you know, and summer slows down a bit, and she's hoping to go then. And then we both want to go back when the war is over and see these places, you know, after 10 p.m., you know. I mean, you know, I wandered by a strip club. Not that I wanted to go to a strip club, but I was thinking, I wonder how much business they're doing since they're not allowed to sell alcohol and they close at 10 p.m.
Oh, right. And these are the things you don't think about.
No,
but it's part
I didn't
of this
think about it.
country and the fabric of the country.
No, and I didn't think about it until I was wandering downtown in the middle of the day, you know, looking for a pizza slice or something, and I see this gentleman's club, and I went, oh, bet they're hurting for business.
Yeah. Oh my gosh! Wow, that's incredible. I'm excited to see what you make from this.
So am I.
I think there's okay. Let me know if you have an idea for me. Yeah. I think there's huge value in the idea of a movie about yourself and what you learned, because it goes back, and this is going to sound really kind of snarky, but it goes back to like baseline levels of who we empathize with, right? Yeah. And it's like I was talking about, we have a tough time empathizing with the people of Ukraine, right? We can sympathize, but it's hard to empathize because we gravitate towards people who are like ourselves. That's yes. Like a baseline anthropological, biological thing that is always going to be there.
Yeah.
So like people in Canada will be able to empathize with you and your struggle and your wanting to learn about this country yeah. and what do I do and here's what I learned. And I'm going to say the word sadly, even though it's not sad, there's nothing we can really do about it, but like sadly yeah. more than we can empathize because we've not experienced it with the people of Ukraine. So I think, oh yeah, whew, wow.
Yeah.
On the other side of your interesting life spectrum, tell me how you got into acting.
So the slightly longer story is that my daughter did dance and drama in school, and she had fun with that. Going back further, when I was in high school, there was a drama club, but it was run by the English teacher, and I was really bad in English class, and so I wasn't one of the cool kids that got to be in the drama club, even though they weren't really cool. You know, the sports people were cool. I was one of the math geeks. I was not the sports guy. I was not the drama guy. So when my daughter started doing just, you know, amateur stuff in school, I thought that's really cool. And then she joined a community theater group, Hamilton Urban Theater in Hamilton, and I'm not big on competitions. This whole audition thing as a professional actor just freaks me out because I don't like that. I think it was my music teacher in high school who said, art is not a competitive sport. So, yeah, well, yeah, it is. Anyway, so my daughter says, you should come and be in the play with me. I went, well, community theater always needs adult males, so I'm not going to audition. You tell me later if there's a small part and I might step in. So the guy, they were doing Lear, I think. Is it Oswald is Goneril's servant? Anyway, Oswald, whoever was playing Oswald stepped out at the last minute, and my daughter's like, we have a really small part for a guy and we need somebody, and can you do it? I went, yeah, I can do that, because, you know, I don't have to audition. They're just offering it to me because like they're stuck. So I did that, and that was fun. I really enjoyed it. And And then they said, we're doing another production now, and you should be in that one. Sure, what's that? Well, that's the Merchant of Venice. Oh, yeah, what do they want me to do? They want you to be Shylock. Oh, my God. So the second time I was on stage as an actor, I was, Shylock. Doing my best Jewish accent, trying not to, but I couldn't help it because the guy I was playing opposite was actually Jewish, and I kept accidentally mimicking him. You know what that's like. You're a room full of English people, and all of a sudden you realize you're speaking an English accent without trying. Anyway, so I did that, and then I got busy, and I moved away from Hamilton, and I was in my day job, and I left the company abruptly, which is a polite way of saying fired. And my wife said, why don't you go do that acting thing while you look for a real job? Because you thought acting was fun. And I went, yeah, I could do that. So I had a friend who was in the business on the union prop site. He's in IATSE doing costuming and wardrobe and props. And I said, how do I get into the movie business? And he said, well, start with background. So I called the background company in Toronto. 3 days later, I'm on set of Covert Affairs with Piper Perabo, and she's off being a star, and I'm bus traveler number 87 with a suitcase walking in the background. And I went, this is so much fun. And so, I started taking acting classes. I got an agent, and my wife's like, that's not what I meant. I meant just go have some fun and then get a real job. But I spent the next year trying to build an acting career. And then the money ran out, and I went, well, that was fun, but we're done now. And I got a day job, but the acting was still, well, if I could get a part on the weekend or maybe take a day off and go. So it's just kind of been building since then. I now have a full-time project manager day job, just like you're a doctor. And I take vacation time I love this whole COVID self-tape thing because it means I don't have to drive to Toronto for an audition. So if I book a gig, I take a vacation day and off I go. And I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm old. I am set in my lifestyle. I have a nice place here. I would love to say, that's it. I'm done. I'm quitting the rat race and I'm going to be a full-time actor. But I know that's not going to pay the lifestyle I have now. So I'm cheating. I'm acting when I can, if, and I don't expect this to happen, if I make it big and I get enough money, then sure, I'll quit the job and be a full-time actor. But it started as theater, and I'm still in the local theater in Dunnville. I'm the chairman of the board for the Dunnville Community Theater. And during COVID, the community theater couldn't do anything, so they looked at me going, well, you're the TV star. Yeah, no. So we want to do a video blog because we're a live theater troupe and we're not allowed on stage. So the next thing I know, I'm producing 12 short films for the community theater and doing all the editing and shooting. And it's a lovely business. I just wish I could make a living at it.
Yeah. It's so funny because I was just reading a quote and I'm blanking on who said it. Oh, that's terrible. I just watched that. It's in Mississippi Burning.
Oh, yeah?
Doesn't matter. We'll figure it out later. But it was something along the lines of acting is one of the hardest things to do, professional acting, because nobody allows you to do it.
Yeah.
Nobody lets you actually act, right? I think, and so that's where I find, like, when I read that quote, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so true. Whenever you do get a chance to act, it's like a drug. Like, you want more of it. You want more of it.
Yeah.
But there's so many people who are gatekeepers in your way, preventing you from actually doing what you love to do, which is the acting.
Yeah.
So that's why I love community theater and I love doing background, because you get that little hit of it where you're like, this is what I love to do. But so much of the like business, uncontrolled, weird part that of the industry that is not letting us do the acting that we love. There's too much of that. So you have to, I think it's so important to have the community theater in the background just to do some acting.
Yeah. And, you know, creating your own content. I read a book by, I think it was a book by Dean Silvers, who's a producer in Hollywood. And one of the main pieces of advice he says is like, and you would know this, if you want to be a doctor, you can't just walk into the OR and start operating. You know, if you want to be a lawyer, you can't just walk into court and say, I'm here. If you want to be a filmmaker, make a film. No one's stopping you. It'll suck and you'll learn and you'll make a better one next time. So, and he said, and this book was specifically for filmmakers, and he said, to you actors out there, you should know the business. If you want to be an actor and no one gives you an acting job, make your own film and learn how the business works. And, you know, you get a part on this, at the same time. And so that's one of the things I did relatively early on was I have a friend in the States who's a writer. And I said, hey, I read this short story of yours. Can I make a film out of it? I'm not going to pay you or anything. And she goes, go right ahead. So, you know, I made a short film. And, you know, that was my entry into the, what do you need to do about cameras and sound and lighting and editing. I've heard, I kind of envious of people who've gone to film school, but then I've heard about half and half. Half of the people say, yeah, it was a great experience. And half the people went, I should have taken my tuition money and rented camera equipment and made a film. You know, so the jury's out on whether that's a good idea or not. Also jealous of people who went to acting school or got, you know, Bachelor of Fine Arts or whatever. But I when I was of an age to pick a university to go to, acting was not on the radar. And I was, quite honestly, I don't think I would have been comfortable doing it then. I am so much more comfortable as an old guy in my own self and my own skin and my own body. I'm very comfortable with myself, and putting myself out there and putting myself on stage is something I'm quite happy to do now. And when I was 20, I would have been way too self-conscious.
Do you find there's any kind of transferable skills or anything that you've noticed you've been able to bring into your acting career from your real job?
Lots, depending on how it would depend on how deeply you wanted to get into the film business. I would like to do more of it because I'm a project manager, which basically is someone who organizes other people and their time and their jobs and makes sure that it all comes together. Basically, I'm a line producer, you know, or a unit production manager. I mean, that's the kind of job that I do. But I can't just walk onto a film set and go, hey, hire me as a production manager, because I have no experience on film. And I can't just quit my job and I can't work my way up because I wouldn't get paid enough to support my lifestyle. And I'm very vain and I love my lifestyle. But that same set of skills is what I've used to run my acting career. Because one of the things that some people make the mistake of is thinking that this is, you know, a glamorous career where, you know, you sit and people do stuff for you and you just walk in front of the camera and go, hi, I'm here, give me my line. And I mean, it's a business, it's show business, it's film business, it's acting business. So I have spreadsheets that track my auditions. I have editing software to, like, every self-tape I do is literally a short film. You know, I mean, you know, the days of walking in to an audition, you know, where you were in there for 3 minutes was kind of nice in one way, because I will spend an hour and a half or 2 hours doing a 45-second audition self-tape, because I treat it like a film. I treat my acting career as a business. I log my emails so that I have records if I need them. You know, you meet every deadline. You ensure that all of your email addresses forward to the right place so that you always get contact. I mean, I'm not on call. I turn my phone off when I go to bed, but during the day when I'm awake, I'm available 24/7. Okay, not 24, 16/7. I like to get out of sleep. Um, for my agent or for anyone else that needs me, I'm extremely flexible. You run things as a business, and part of that business is making sure you keep up on your creative side. So you take acting classes or things like that. And I don't do enough of that because I have the day job. I also help my wife with her vet practice, doing bookkeeping. I have a property to just, kind of manage. I have 7 horses in the backyard, like my life is very full. So I don't do as much acting training as I should, but I do try to do some. Because it forwards the business, it forwards your skill set, and all of this comes down to, my project management skills, which are really basically just organizational skills. I mean, the project management side teaches you, about templates and documents and, the scope, cost, quality triangle, and like it teaches you the formality of running a project. But when it comes down to it, basically, it's figuring out what needs to be done and organizing that stuff to actually get done. And
it's interesting because the worry for me, and you kind of touched on it there about, you taking part of your job is to keep creative because that's part of the business of acting. My worry, and I know I'm guilty of this as well too, because of full-time job and stuff like that, is seeing it so much as a business that I forget the creative part of it. And I wonder if that's why so many people don't see it as a business, because they think it's just, like you're saying, just pure creativity. And with my pure creativity, I can just walk on set and line, please, right? So they don't see it as that business part of it. What are your thoughts?
But before COVID, there was a monthly drink night that was organized by some people on Facebook, an independent film group. And I would go to the bar and drink with these people, once a month, not because I necessarily knew them particularly well or that I wasn't necessarily going to work with them. But I went there specifically to remind me that I am an actor and filmmaker, because it was so easy to forget that with the day job and the domestic responsibilities and, the other day jobs. So I specifically went to this just to remind myself, oh yeah, I'm hanging out with filmmakers and actors and stuff. I'm one of them. And that was really important to me. And that's something that I've had to make up for due to COVID. It's one of the few things that I missed during COVID is, I like being at home. I like working from home. I like being at home. I don't like all that people all that much. I mean, some of them are okay. And the people I meet on set are, 90% of them are just a joy to be around and chat with and work with. But one of the things I have trouble doing is keeping myself on the creative side. Even thinking of myself. Like the first time I ever took a film to a film festival, it was the Milton Film Festival quite some years ago, and it was my very first short film. And I got up on stage to introduce the film, because that's one of the things you get to do when you're, in a small film festival and you've got a small film. And I said, I'm an artist. I've never said that out loud. That's really weird, because I'm the math guy from high school. I'm an artist. And that, it struck me at the time, and it still hits me even now with my day jobs and everything else that's going on. Every once in a while I have to stop and go, no, wait, I am a creative person. I am an artist. I can do this thing that is, not like the other stuff I do. And it is hard to keep it going, but you have to, because the business stuff is really important. If you want to be taken seriously as an actor, you have to have that business stuff. But if you can't act, it doesn't really matter how good your business is. You have to impress the casting director or the producer with your abilities and the fact that you can actually go out and do what they need you to do. So you know, stressing the business stuff, you can't have one without the other. You have to have the business side to make your career, but you have to have the acting skills or there isn't a career to make. This is an argument we have, my wife and I have all the time when I congratulate her on how well her veterinary business is doing. And she goes, well, I can't do it without you. You're doing all this logistics in the background. I said, yeah, but the logistics doesn't matter if there isn't a vet. Like if there's no one to treat the animals, it doesn't matter how well I balance the books, So same thing in the creative side.
Yeah, it's funny because I think I am the math-brained person as well. Yeah. I did a physics and kinetics, which is basically gym, degree. But I like things I can control, right? Yeah. And the business side of acting is controllable.
Exactly.
You're so right. I think about it with like script analysis. I can analyze a script so good. It means nothing. It's not like I can show up to an audition and be like, look at me and my report that I did on your script. If I can't act what I just analyzed, it doesn't matter. It's so true.
Yep. Well, you're a doctor. I mean, hospital administrators do good work, but they can't really do much in a hospital if there isn't a doctor or a nurse standing by to actually do the stuff.
Great. Yeah. Do you have any advice for anyone who has a job that they want to keep, right? Like, but wants to try and balance that. Oh. Big question.
Wow, where do you start there? It's not easy. You have to make, how do I say this? You have to make your second career a hobby. Most people talk about making a hobby into a career. No, you have to make that second career into a hobby. Careers are things you do, in my experience, for money. Like you need a job, you got to pay rent or mortgage or whatever, so you need to have a job. If acting is, if your second career is just that, it's a job. So yeah, I have my day job and then I go to my night job. Like you need acting to be the hobby, the fun thing that you do to get away from work. And then if you ever get paid for it, that's a bonus, I mean, my advice, if you have the financial resources, is quit your day job, be a full-time actor, devote yourself to it. But most people don't have that. I certainly don't have that. Certainly not if I want to maintain the lifestyle I have now. And I keep talking about my lifestyle. It's not like I'm rich, but, I have horses in the backyard and I own a property. I can't pay for hay and grain and mortgage without a paycheck. So, my advice is if you really love it, then do it. Make it your hobby. Make it the thing that consumes you for fun. And then if it ever pays enough, then you can quit your day job and then acting can be the daily grind and you can find another hobby.
That's such a good point. Yeah.
But the fun thing about acting, in my opinion, because it's not just acting, I fell in love with the entire business. I like camera work. I like trying to capture good sound. I love editing. Editing is awesome. When I do a self-tape, I do 2 or 3 takes to get the stuff that I like. But what I like doing is editing it together into something cohesive. I want to tell a story. There's lots of times when I do what's in the industry, an L cut. So, as the audition fades out, a title card with me and my website and a full body shot comes on, but the audio from the audition continues because I'm trying to me, it's a film. It's not an audition. It's a short film that I'm making for these people. So I try and be artistic in that. Now, I'm sure somebody out there is going to go, you're an idiot. You're an actor, just act. That's what they want to see. They don't want to see that you're a master editor. No, but I want them to enjoy watching the audition. I want them to watch that and say, that was good. And that was fun. That was a good audition. And whether they know it or not, they're looking at the acting, but they're also looking at the film. I know they say, casting directors tell you, we want, as COVID progresses, we want, your self-quality, your self-tape quality to improve. But, we're not looking at your lighting or your sound. We're looking for the acting performance. Yes, they are, but they're humans, and they're going to be impressed by a quality product. And anybody in filmmaking knows that sound is key. People will forgive grainy film or slightly out of focus film because their brain will adjust for it. But if sound quality is bad, no one likes a movie, right? Which is why I pay so much attention to the sound in my self-tapes. Whether if there's a slate and an audition and then a title card, like the whole thing has to flow together as a film. I'm getting really pedantic here.
No, but I think that's really important because you are enjoying it.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters.
Yes.
Because I think the further on I get in this acting biz, which is not far, but whatever, I'm starting to care less about what people have told me I should be doing and more about what I enjoy doing.
Exactly.
I had an audition yesterday and I kind of went a bit crazy in my slate, and I remember the person I read with was like, wow, that was okay. That was nuts. I'm like, I had a blast. She's like, I don't know if the casting director's going to like it. I was like, don't care. You're right. They're humans who are, I don't know. I just think if you're having fun with it and you're sending it off and it's a joy for you, that feeds into the acting that they keep saying that's the most important thing.
Yeah. And this was a recent breakthrough for me, because they tell you if you take acting classes from certain people that the audition is where you hone your craft, apart from classes, but you're supposed to look forward. This is your job is to audition. If you're successful and you get an acting job, that's fine, but your job is auditioning. That's what you do. And just literally last month, there was some sort of tweak in my brain. Up until then, I actually dreaded getting emails from my agent. You have an audition. Oh, crap. I have to drop what I'm doing. I have to make another self-tape. I have to get it good. And then I'm going to send it off. And then nothing will ever happen. And it was tense. And I literally, I want to be an actor, but every time I got an email from my agent, it's, oh, shit. Just last month, I don't know what happened, but I now have started looking forward to it. Oh, good. I just got something from my agent. What is it? Oh, it's an audition. Oh, great. Let's see. What's the part? And I have I've been doing this off and on for, 6 years, 7 years. I don't know. I've lost track of time. But I've just last month started to really enjoy doing auditions. It's fun, and part of it is to your point. I split my brain. Half of me is like, okay, what do they need? What do they want? What do they want to see? And half of it, it's like, what do I want to do? What do I want to see? And I try and merge those two into an audition that is fun for me, that I think is just hilarious or not hilarious, depending on the context of the. I was auditioned for a recent role where I was, accidentally finding a dead body on the ground. It's like, oh. But I thought I found a way to make that slightly amusing, but it's enjoyable now. I look at the audition. I say, what can I do with this that makes them happy, hopefully, and me happy, definitely. Mm-hmm. So,
I talk about this a lot, and I know I talk about this a lot, but I think having the security from finances, for me, is very important.
Yep.
It's been ingrained in me since I was a kid. It's never going to change. That's me. Yep. But having that allows me to bring the joy and excitement that I get now with the new mindset of, I was exactly the same as you. Oh God, I have to do another audition. Great. When am I going to do it? I'm on call this weekend, blah, blah. But now the excitement is there when I get the audition because I know I'm not relying on it to survive.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to rely on it to, like you were saying, to pay rent. This is fun.
Yeah.
If I get the job, bonus. And that desperation has gone away.
And I feel guilty doing that because, you know, I'm comfortably, you know, I'm comfortable in my life, and am I stealing a job from a starving actor out there?
Oh, I hate that term, starving.
Yeah.
But like, you've worked your butt off.
Yes.
To get to where you are.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't. It doesn't stop me. I just said I feel a little guilty.
Yeah.
Doesn't stop me from doing it.
Human nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And trust me, if I could just afford to quit my job and act full time, or if I was younger and had fewer responsibilities. I mean, you know, people when people ask my advice, you know, like, oh, how do you get into acting? I say, start young. And they go, well, you know, I'm like 50. Well, you can't start younger than that now, because that's where you are. You know, I mean, you know, I mean, if I could, I would go and be a, you know, minimum wage production assistant, or, I mean, yeah, some of them don't get paid at all. I did one of those, you know, free PA thing, you know, way back years ago, just to get on set. It was my very first IMDb credit, was production assistant. For free.
Yeah. For the experience.
The experience. Yeah. Well, yeah, we are lucky that we have the financial ability to pursue it as a hobby, and you know, a semi-professional hobby, whatever term you want to use there. And I feel quite lucky that I get to do that. At some point, I will actually retire, and if they still want, you know, old white guys in movies at that point, you know, I will be available full time. You know, I don't think I'm going to cut my hair, but you know.
I was just about to ask.
Were you?
Like, do you go, yeah, well, just about, you know, because I've talked to another gentleman who has a big beard.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Beard. That Ken, yeah. And so we talked so much about typecasting. Yeah. And, you know, do you go for the kind of more niche roles because of how you can look with your hair? You know, because you have a very character look to you.
When I tell my wife, hey, I have an audition, she goes, homeless or drug dealer?
What? No, I'm a lead role in a Hallmark movie.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I mean, I have an NDA for a small part I'm doing right now, so I can't talk about it. But it's a very small part. But it says right in the script, looks like a serial killer. Yep, that'd be me. So here's the thing, and this is gonna sound arrogant. This is one of the I'm ACTRA. One of the reasons I went union is one of the many reasons I haven't cut my hair. One of the reasons is I haven't cut my hair for decades. But I can't, and this is going to sound arrogant, I can't afford to be a little bit successful, right? I have a job and I have a certain number of vacation days, many of which I blew off to go to Ukraine because, you know, I needed to do that. I can't afford to act like 3 or 4 or 5 days a month, because I can't take that much time off work. Right. So I can't be a bit of a success. I either have to do it in my spare time, or, you know, take a vacation day here or there or whatever, or I have to make enough money at this that I can quit my job. There's no in between. And I know there's a lot of non-union work out there. And when I went union, my agent at the time dumped me. She goes, you're not good enough for union. You don't have the resume. Like, you weren't going to make it. And yeah, this is not someone I would ever recommend. But
oh, I hate this agent.
But to a certain point, she's right. I would have gotten a lot more work as a non-union actor. I could have booked a lot more roles. But here's the thing. I have the day job. I can't be a little successful. By going union, I cut down my options considerably. I got a lot fewer roles, but when I did get them, they paid really well. So,
Yes. Yeah.
do I want to work, you know, just making up numbers? Do I want to work 12 hours at, you know, you know, $10 an hour, or do I want to work 2 hours at, you know, $60 an hour? Did I do the math right? Anyway, like, sorry,
Yeah.
I need, and, ACTRA is the professional union. That's what we're supposed to aspire to.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I got in the minute I could get in. In fact, I slid my way in by getting an ACTRA credit by doing my own short film that I did through ACTRA. Don't tell them. They don't like that.
But that's what you're creating your own content.
I did.
It's great.
But I could have done it non-union.
Yeah, I guess. But I'm with you,
Yep.
right? And I mean, I know the agent you have now. We have the same agent.
Yes, we do. And she's awesome.
Amazing. But I agree with you, all right? I think, again, it's a bit of... you the word arrogant, or like I've used the word luxury a little bit,
Yeah.
which I know is probably not the right kind of mindset to be in. But I was thinking to myself, I'm in the union as well. One damn elusive credit to get full ACTRA. But when I joined,
You need a credit?
I didn't have. Yeah, want to give me one? Yeah, I need one more.
I will look at the short films I'm doing and see if we could find you.
Sweet.
I have done that for people.
I think that's and as we should, right? Like, I think when I joined the union, I remember it was a casting director, actually, I won't name them, who said very similar. I like basically out of the goodness of their heart saying, I was so mad that you joined the union because you're very commercial. I mean, I go for Mom 40 all the time and was booking non-union commercials left, right, and center. And he was like, they were like, oh, I'm so mad you joined the union. But I was like, this is what like you're saying, I aspire to be. These are the actors I want to compete against.
Yep.
Because they'll make me a better actor.
Absolutely.
And, like you were saying, I have the luxury of not being dependent on this as my full-time job.
Yep.
Because, like you were saying, the opportunities go down when you're joining the union, but they're so much better. They're the meatier, delicious roles that we want to be doing.
Last month, I got a trailer for the first time. Ooh.
That's so exciting! Did you take a picture?
I took a picture from inside the trailer because I didn't want to be seen with the camera outside because of the NDA.
Right.
But we got off topic. You were talking about typecasting.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I found, sometimes you ask people, is there something unexpected about the industry for you?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I found out is that the industry is a lot more... Do we swear little bits here? They're a lot more tight ass than I thought they were. So I get told, "Oh, it's film. It's the world of fantasy. You can be anything you want." No, I could be, with all due respect to you, I could be a doctor. I could be a lawyer. Mm-hmm. I can't get cast as a doctor or a lawyer because I don't look like one. So if you're on the A list,
do I?
Yeah. So if you're on an A list, like, they'll give you a wig or a bald cap, or they will do whatever they need to do. But when you're on the, what are we, the D list or E list? I don't know. Whatever list we're on, you have to look the part when you get there, or because they're not spending the money, they're not spending the money to make you look like, what they want. You have to be what they want. So yeah, I this is the look that I've had for long before I was an actor. I've done medieval recreation. I've done jousting, on horseback. So, I look the part for all my other hobbies. And this is what I look like at work. I cut my hair to get a job in IT because you have to cut your hair to get the job. But then once I got the job, I don't cut it because you're allowed to have long hair in IT. You're just not allowed to have long hair when you interview unless you're really, really good. And I've considered cutting it because, I've had it for a long time. But this is kind of who I've been for many decades. And part of me said, well, if I cut it, I might get more roles. But so what? I mean, I'm going to get, it's not going to look like me. you know, the guy that you were talking about earlier had the huge beard. I saw pictures of him. Like he seems to grow hair and facial hair at an amazing rate. If I could do that, I would do that. I would shave my head or shave my beard or whatever. And then, next month I'm back. This has taken me decades to grow. I get it trimmed once a year, to get the dead ends off, and that's it. If I cut this short, it's probably never coming back. So, I keep it this way. The beard I will happily shave if someone pays me enough. One of my favorite auditions where I was honest with the guy is he said, "Will you shave the beard?" And I looked at him and I said, "Not for your pay scale." And he goes, "Good answer."
Yes, advocate for yourself.
Well, this was before I was union. This is a small independent thing where they're paying you $100 for a day, and it's like, yeah, no, not cutting my beard for $100.
No,
I did cut it for, and this is, I was actually booked at the Story of Us was a CBC historical thing. Yeah.
Why am I thinking of? Yeah, it's cluing in my brain somewhere.
So I was Montcalm on horseback, and they said, "We need you to shave." Well, I'd already agreed to do this tiny little independent thing that wasn't paying me very much, but they were good guys, and I had agreed. So I called them and said, "Can I shave?" "Well, when are you going to stop shave?" "Well, I got to shave today for a role this weekend, and when are we shooting in 3 weeks?" Ago, "We'd rather you not, but we understand that if you got a real gig that pays real money, you got to do what you got to do." So but I checked with these guys and said, "Will you let me shave?" And then I turned to CBC and said, "Yeah, they said I could shave." So I did, and then and so I had 2-3 weeks stubble when I did the second thing. So yeah, I will change my look for the right moment.
Yeah, and I think exactly. And I think, as I gain great wiseness and maturity in this life, the less I'm willing to change who I am and what I look like.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, yeah, this is what I look like. If you don't like it, fine.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Do you have any memorable on-set stories?
So my favorite on-set story takes a little bit, but we'll get there. This was non-union, doing background. I get called in to do something in Toronto. I show up. There's 8 or 10 background people stuffed in the holding area, the back of this cafe. And I think it's a student. No one tells background anything. I think it's a student film, but for some reason, either whether they convinced him or he was mentoring or whatever, it was being directed by Paul Gross, right? Canadian actor and all around film guy up here.
Due south.
Yeah, and so he comes in. His hair doesn't look anything like what it usually does, and he's 6'3". He's bigger than I realized, but he's wearing a Passchendaele jacket. And I went, "Hey, that must be one of the guys from the crew of Passchendaele," whatever. But anyway, so throughout the day, this AD comes in, and he goes, "I need 2 background, not you." Okay, and then somebody will come in, and "I need 3 more background, not you." Okay, whatever. And as the day progresses, they're taking more people away. And then they're starting to wrap the background. "Okay, we don't need you anymore. You're done." And finally, at the end of the day, I'm by myself in holding. And they come in and go, "Your scene. We're ready for you and your scene." So they take me into this tiny little diner that's not much bigger than my office. They set me down with a backpack and a book and start reading. And then they put the 2 leads in front at a different table, and then there's all the camera and crew, and it's this tiny little room, and you can hear everything that everybody's saying. So I'm sitting there pretending to read my book, and I can hear the director of photography look at Paul Gross and go, "I think it would be much better if there was just this vast emptiness behind the leads to symbolize some whatever, And I can hear this. I'm sitting 10 feet away. So I start packing up my stuff, and Paul Gross comes over and he looks down at me from way down, and he goes, "You're too handsome. You're wrecking the shot. Get out." Okay. So now, as you know, background are scum. They're not allowed to talk to anybody or interrupt anyone. But, I'm not young. I'm not new. I don't care. And also, I have to literally squeeze past Paul Gross's chest to get out of the diner that we're in because it's so packed. So I'm trying to squeeze by, and I look up because he's up there. And I said, I know I'm not supposed to talk to you, sir, because you're important. But my wife just saw Gunless, and she thinks it's the funniest movie ever. And he looks down and he goes, your wife is fantastic. And then I left. So that was my interaction with Paul Gross. The funny thing is I was doing a short film later and I sent him and this is just funny to me, no one else. And I talked to people about how do you get names on your film? Well, there's lots of different strategies, but you got to ask or you don't get anything. So I sent a note to Paul Gross's agent saying, hey, I was an extra on a Paul Gross short and he said that I was too handsome and was wrecking the shot and it crushed my ego and damaged this poor young actor, but he could make it up to me by accepting this role on my short film. And I'd have been happier if it took a couple of days for a response because then maybe I would have thought Mr. Gross saw it. But I got a response about 8 hours later going, Mr. Gross is currently very busy with post-production and wishes you the best of luck on your short film, but cannot participate. And that fall, Hyena Road was at TIFF. So he really was busy in post-production. But so that's my Paul Gross story. And
I love that. That's awesome.
But as for asking for names, I was doing another short and I was being directed by a friend of mine. And we had the voice for a GPS. This guy's dead mother was possessing his GPS. And I said to her, what do you want? You want a young voice or do we want an old voice? And she goes, no, we want a young voice that kind of sounds like a GPS. Unless we could get Betty White, then that'd be awesome. But otherwise, no, a young voice. So I am IMDb Pro. Dear Betty White's agent, we would like to offer Mrs. White a short, audio piece in this. And I never heard back from them. But the actress we cast gets to say, yeah, the role I took is the one that Betty White didn't want.
She turned it down. Yeah.
So
I love
there are
that.
tiny things that make this industry fun. Mm-hmm. And that's one of them.
Yeah. Do you have anything that you are looking forward to coming up this year?
I can just say everything. 2020, I think I did 6 auditions because, COVID, booked nothing. 2021, I did, I think, 15 or 16 auditions and booked nothing. 2022, my agent, I have done 9 auditions. I have 4 gigs.
Yes.
I am looking forward to this entire year. My agent seems to be on a roll. I seem to be on a bit of a roll. I'm really looking forward. I said earlier that I just made that tweak in my head to the point where I was enjoying auditions. I'm looking forward to this whole year. I'm looking forward to more auditions. I'm looking forward to maybe more parts, maybe more trailers. Excuse me, Mr. Heron, we'll be with you in a minute. I'm ready for my close-up. It's just, as long as you don't take yourself too seriously, this is a hell of a fun industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have any final words of wisdom? No pressure.
Run screaming.
Yeah.
No, if somebody's actually listening to this podcast, it means they're interested in acting, I guess. Mm-hmm. You should find, God, I hate the whole follow your bliss kind of crap. But you need to enjoy your life. And ideally you have a job that you like. And, if not, at least tolerate. But apart from the job, you need to enjoy your life. Whether you enjoy your life sitting on your butt watching Netflix or golfing God, I don't understand golfing. But whatever it is that you do, find something that you enjoy and do that. And if acting is what you like, then do that. Act for yourself. Go join a community theater, because there's all kinds of them out there. And that'll teach you all kinds about acting. Not about TV acting. You got to understand the differences between film and TV and theater. But theater is a great place to start or finish, you know. Do theater, do your own content. I mean, I think it's a little gimmicky, but wasn't there a feature film made on an iPhone? You know?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's gimmicky. I don't know that I would do that. But my cameras are not expensive. In fact, I don't even own them. They belong to someone else. But there's technology is cheap, and creativity, if it's your own, is free. Do something, like the live, like the community theater group that couldn't go on stage. So we did a web series, and we didn't get distribution. It's on YouTube, we're not getting money for it. We're having fun and honing our skills. So yeah, my piece of advice is you should try and enjoy what you're doing, whatever that happens to be. And do some good in the world. Help Ukraine.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and thank you, Jordan, for being my guest this week. Thank you for the incredible work that you're doing, supporting the country of Ukraine and bringing their stories to Canada. Also, I always talk about this. When I meet people that have been on my show in real life, it probably is the biggest joy-bringing thing to my life. Jordan and I got to meet a couple weeks ago, and it was just the best. He was wearing a suit that had Tetris cubes all over it, and he was just as joy-filled in person as he was virtually through this platform that we call Riverside FM that I do my podcast on. As expected, Jordan, you are an absolute joy, and I am just so thrilled that everyone got to hear your story. Thank you again for sharing it. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and I hope you'll join me next week on another episode of Second Act Actors. Bye!